Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm so excited for season 2 and the great guests you're going to hear from, their struggles, how they overcame their struggles, their triumphs. Through personal and business life, I think they're tied together, and we're going to share great stories about that. This show isn't just about me. It takes a lot of good people working with me. Among them is my partner, H7 Network, and Clay Hicks. Building relationships, building community is the mission of H7 Network. They want to create a network of champions where everybody wins. Find out more at h7network.com. And we hope to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you through our show. Enjoy the show. We'll talk to you on the other side. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. This is a great episode because I've got a true leader that teaches leadership for life and professional and personal. But you know, the best part is she loves people, from what I was talking before this show. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much, Steve.
What drew your love for people?
Well, I think I was just born this way. I've always, my mom says that when I was a little girl and at 3 years old, I would go up to people in the supermarket and introduce myself and tell them how old I was and ask them how old they were. And she told me it was rude to do that, but I didn't know, I didn't care. I was curious. I've always been curious about people, and I've always enjoyed people and their stories and their personalities and all that.
I love it. I love it so much. But that leads to leadership, because you got to have a love for people to help them with leadership, right?
Yeah. And really what I guess my focus on is how people can first lead themselves more effectively so that then they can lead others congruently and with integrity.
This leadership can work personally and professionally, right?
Absolutely. Leadership is really ultimately, well, and part of it at least is about influencing yourself or influencing others. It's about how do you inspire activity? How do you inspire creation? How do you inspire people to do something different, to change, to evolve, to grow? And so that's really at the core of what leadership is about, in my opinion. It's about being congruent and doing the work yourself, and then influencing yourself to step into more of what you deeply desire and are here to do.
What's your definition of a leader? I know there's a dictionary definition, but what's your definition?
I would say it's someone who's fully self-expressed and congruently embodies their values and principles, their message. Someone who fully embodies their message and leads by example. Someone who, walks the talk. Someone who is constantly evolving and growing and looking at themselves as the cause of everything in their life. I think one of the biggest and most insidious sort of habits that we can have is to point the finger outward at others and blame others for everything and anything. And I think that a real true leader is someone who's always pointing the finger inward and looking at how can I be responsible? How am I accountable? How can I create something new and different?
I like the inward thing because it always has to start with us, with everything, but even with leadership. So you bring a new client on. So you got a new client on, you're going to teach them leadership, you're going to coach them. How's that process work with a new person?
Well, I have a signature system, if you will.
Yeah.
That I've developed. So everything that I do is centered around the brand of Superstar. So my company is Superstar Activator. I lead something called the Superstar Summit, Superstar Inner Circle, Superstar Business Breakthrough. And so for me, a superstar is a leader, is someone who, by shining their light in the world, uplifts and inspires others and activates them to shine their light too. So when I work with somebody, I use the metaphor or the symbol of a star to represent the work. And so, and the way I look at it is that a star is a is a thing, I guess, a thing
Yeah.
that creates heat and light,
Hmm.
right? Light and heat. Light is, illumination, enlightenment, and heat is warmth and love. So a superstar generates illumination and love, right? These are the two characteristics of a superstar, the way I look at it. And so in order to combust, in order to build energy to be able to send out more light and love into the world, there are these six things that I look at. I'm sure there's a lot more than six, but there are these six core areas that I look at. And if you think of the shape of a five-pointed star, at the center of a five-pointed star is the inward part where that light and heat is first combusted, and that's the identity. Like, who am I really? What do I love to do? What do I hate to do? What's my personality? So when we start working with a client, when I work with a client, that's the first thing we do is we do some personality testing and deep inquiry as to what is this person like? Is this someone who loved people from a young age, or were they an introvert and loved books? And either way is fine. There's no judgment. There's only curiosity. So that's at the center of the star. And then if you imagine there's 5 points, the top point on the star aims upward into the heavens. And so that represents our connection to the divine, to some purpose that's greater than us. Then there are 2 arms on the star and 2 legs. The 2 legs, I think of them as legs pointing downward and grounding us into the earth, into this human existence. One leg is our life force energy, our self-care, how we eat, sleep, take care of ourselves, work out, or yoga, or whatever we do that grounds us in this physical experience of life. And the other leg is what grounds us in our values and our principles. Like, you have a really strong value of being a servant leader and doing business with a servant's heart. That's a core value. How much do you live that value? How aligned are you with that? That's the other leg. Like, how do we live our values? So those are the 2 legs that ground us. And then the 2 arms, I think of it as one reaching back into the past. And that arm is all about our stories, our wounds, our conditioning, and everything that came before, and how we relate to that. Do we relate to it in an empowered way? Do we relate to it in a disempowered way? And then the other arm is reaching out into the future. It's our vision, possibilities. And what are we excited about what we're creating in life? And so all these 6 kind of pieces, in my opinion, when we're really dialed in and aligned on each and every one of those, then we have more light and heat to give out into the world. So that's what we start with our clients, is that inner work, the personality testing, the deep inquiry. Do we have a clear purpose in life? How are we doing with our life force energy, our values? Have we start to look at the past, and we look at the future, where this person is going. And from that place, then we do the work.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful imagery. I love it. It's easy. It's simple.
Yeah.
But I'm sure somebody's listening going, Michelle, I'm an introvert. I'm not a people person. Can I be a leader?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different flavors and styles of leadership. The key is, are you someone who's congruently living out your message? And from that place, I mean, you don't have to rub elbows, shake hands, and kiss babies to get the message out. You can write. You record it in front of a camera, right? Especially now more than ever, anybody can be a leader. Anybody can, for better or for worse, right? Anybody can be a leader. You don't have to be an extrovert or charismatic necessarily person to have a message of value that the world wants and needs.
Yeah, I like that. You don't have to be in government to be a leader. You can be
God,
the leader
no.
of your own family, leader of your siblings, right? Leader of your dog. How do you, and that's what I love your message is, anybody can do it. But how much, okay, I become a leader. How's my life going to change, Michelle?
Well, I think that it's pretty clear that, at least for me, and I think for you too, we know that when you're in service, everything is more meaningful, more fulfilling, more joyful. And that's why being a leader to me is a requirement, is to be in service. A servant leader, a leader who's only in service to themselves, is a manipulator. is a narcissist, right? Like that's the truth. I feel like leadership, it has to have that quality of
Mhm.
service for it to be truly integrated and conscious. For conscious leadership to happen, there has to be an element of contribution and service.
I love saying self-service works at Costco or these grocery
Mhm.
stores, but doesn't work in leadership. You can't be self-service in leadership, right?
No, indeed,
Uh,
absolutely. I like that.
I love what you're talking about. Now, in regards to business, whether you're a solopreneur or you run or Apple or Google, can leadership make me more money? Because of course everybody goes down to the money. We need money to live. You shouldn't serve for money, but how does leadership change my ROI for myself?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I can't think of anywhere that it wouldn't help that piece, because when you're a leader, an embodied, congruent leader, people want to serve you. They want to listen to you. They want to be led. They want to help. They want to support. You've got hands on deck, willing to work longer hours, put more into it, donate, pay, sponsor, invite, being someone just whose presence, because that's the thing, it's the embodiment piece, right? That your very presence is
Mhm.
leadership. You don't really have to do anything. You just have to be and do you. Like you and I were having a conversation at the beginning of the call, and I pulled out something that I'd done, and I wasn't teaching you to do it. I wasn't telling you should do this. You were like, oh man, I'm inspired to do this thing just by seeing you do it. That's what a great leader does, I think, is inspires people through their presence and embodiment. They don't have to like point their finger and command it. Certainly they could do that too, but I think what makes true leadership so powerful is that it's by example.
Yeah, it's not partnership. It's partnership, not being your boss,
Yeah.
working together. And I say this podcast every time, and you're doing it right now: inspiration, motivation, education. And that's where leadership is. And that's what the podcast here is trying to do. Let's do a quick shout out. I know by now people are going, I got to talk to this Michelle girl. She's awesome. How can they find you?
Okay, so the easiest, fastest place is right on my website, superstaractivator.com. Everything I do is there. And then I've got a pretty strong presence on YouTube. That's probably the absolute best way to find me if you want to get tons of free content. I have about 600 plus videos on YouTube, all professionally produced with my best content. I honestly don't think there's anything that I know that's not in those videos. So that's a great place to start.
Best part, it's free too. Let's go
It
back to
is.
the money. I'm not, money shouldn't be forefront in your head, but we kind of need it to live. And that's the way the world works right now. So,
Well, and
I,
that's what business is about. We wouldn't
yeah,
be in business if we didn't want to make money.
yep.
We want to live a nice life. That's part of, that there's nothing wrong with it. Money is a tool, and it can be a beautiful tool to create in the world and to build things and to foster and cultivate things that we want to see cultivated. So I definitely rather us have money than some other people out there, right? Because we know what we're going to do it is build beautiful things in service of humanity, right?
When you bring value, money just comes right along. Just they work
Yeah.
together because
Yeah.
that's what it is. People are happy to give you money when you bring them value. Just like I say, I've changed the phrase, death and taxes are 100% guarantee. There's a third one now. You know what that is?
What is it?
That's when you serve. There's 100% guarantee you're going to make somebody happy when you serve. We talked about it earlier, and we get that, and I love that, and that's what you're doing. But I'm really excited to look at this book and share this book with our audience. Audience, you're going to be blown away. This is one of the coolest books I've ever seen. Show us what you got there, Michelle.
Sure. This is my book. It's like this is actually the case, the slip cover for the book, which is called, oops, I just hit myself.
Yeah.
It's called But I Want to Fly. And it's actually it looks like a children's book, but it's an adventure book for dreamers of all ages. So really it was written for people like us in mind, Steve. Although people are sharing it with their kids. The back cover says it's never too late to dust off your dreams, dive into your destiny. So it's the story of V who basically realizes that she's living kind of an overworked, overwhelmed, stressed out life and not so happy. And she takes matters into her own hands and realizes that she wants to live a different way. She wants to live a different life. So she gets this idea that she wants to fly, and she tells people about it, and they make fun of her. And she decides to go and do it anyway. And so she goes into her workshop and starts to plan things out, starts to create and build in her studio, in her workshop. She starts creating something and starts developing herself in the process, starts mapping out her journey, and learns how to meditate, which is what I did. And then eventually the day comes when she's ready to climb the hill with her contraption and test out her wings. So this is her about to take off. This is her running down the runway.
So beautiful, the colors. Now, you made the character, I'm going to say this, not a beauty queen. And there's a reason for that, I'm assuming. I picked that up right away just now when you went to the book. Why'd you do that?
Well, it's funny that you should say that, Stephen, that you did pick up on that, because the first images that I got from all the artists were all these like very gorgeous, beautiful little creatures with big boobs and small waists.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, that's not what I'm going for here. I'm going for something that's relatable. And that's why she's blue too, so that she's not any particular race or color. Like, the idea is to make her, a character that a lot of people can relate to, or hopefully everyone can relate to. It's beyond any sort of race or anything. She's and her name is Vee. And the cute little backstory, I think, behind that is that I originally wrote the poem in the first person as I. So when it came time to switch it, I made the decision strategically, like, oh, I want to make it a third person. Which I wonder sometimes if that was the best decision, although it's all good.
It worked out. Yeah.
Of course it did, but I needed something that rhymed with me. So so that's how I ended up naming her V, because it needed to rhyme with me. So it was either B or Z or V. And because my name is Villalobos, my last name, I chose V. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's her journey. You're going through her journey. We're looking at her eyes, how she took that journey and took off.
Yeah, exactly.
What a beautiful message. What inspired you to write a book like this?
Thank you. The honest truth, Steve, is that I wasn't initially, I didn't set out to do it. There was no strategic meeting where I said, I'm going to write a book that looks like a children's book and is a poem. And it wasn't like that at all. It was in the middle of the night, during, winter season. I woke up in the middle of the night with this like song lyric looping in my head, like a made up song lyric from a dream. And I tried to go back to sleep and I couldn't. And I just got up to write it down so that I could go back to sleep, so that I could capture it and forget it. But I just kept writing, and the whole poem came all at once in the middle of the night around 5 a.m. And it was so beautiful that I decided to share it with a couple of friends, and their response led me to realize that it was really something special. And so over the course of the next few months, it sort of started to take shape in my mind, like, I wonder if I could do something with this. I wonder if this is something. And it took over. I was like a little bit obsessed with it, with the poem, with the idea. And so I found an artist. I found 6 artists on Upwork and asked them all to take a stanza from the poem and just sketch something out that inspired them. And it was this one artist that really sort of nailed it.
Obsession like that, though, is powerful, because you're bringing value to people. Your obsession was, and it's amazing how we wake up in the middle of the night. True leaders do that instead of thinking about oh my God, I got to do this. I've got this problem. A true leader wakes up and goes, who can I bring value today? And for you, you're going to bring it to the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
beautiful.
I've definitely had those moments of like, what am I going to do? I forgot to do this, And this felt really special and different and important. So I took it to all the way.
How can people get the book?
Sure. Thank you. It's butiwanttofly.com is the website. It's up there for sale. I've got shipping set up now, and so people can get it. I'm doing my launch in Miami in 2 days. So I'm excited to officially launch it that way. And then soon it should be up in Amazon. But we don't have that connected out just yet. It's still like pretty early days for the book.
Well, I am excited about this book. So can I get crazy?
Yes, sir.
I'm Italian, so I get a little crazy. Here's what I'm going to do, audience. The first 2 people to buy her book, I'm going to ship you a gift.
Oh,
Because I want to get this book out, because what you've done is the relationship between parents and kids, brothers and sisters can read this book together, whether you're 50 or 5, and the same message will come out that needs to get out into this world, which is doing business or just having a servant's heart, whether you're doing business or being personal. And I like the colors because it's going to draw people to read instead of just, and books are great, they got writing, they're powerful, but
yeah.
I love what you're doing. So please reach out. If you bought a book, the first 2 people that reach out to her, and if you reach out to her as well to set up a time, same thing. So Michelle, you'll let me know who reached out to you, and I've got a little gift I want to send them. I'll get all their information and do that. No, this is community, and I'm going to lead with this because we're running out of time. This show could go on for 20 hours. We'll talk about no sleep because we could talk about so many things, but I love community. I have a podcast community. How important is that for leadership?
Well, I mean, that is what I teach, and or not just what I teach, what I embody. What I've built over the last 9 years, my whole business model is built around a core community of superstars. And that's what I've done. And what I've learned over the 9 years is how to retain that community, how to keep it tight knit. Yes, people come and go. That's okay. And there's this core, group of superstars that contribute to each other, help each other. So that's the business model that I've built. And that's the business model that I help other people build, which I call community coaching models. So they're, models where you coach your community and the community coaches each other as well.
Masterminding this is such a beautiful thing. God bless you, Michelle. I really thank you for being on the show. You've made some influence on people. I know I'm going to get emails or calls, and I will hope I do. I need to have you come back. I'm going to bring you back for part 2 because there's a lot more we could talk about. Can I ask one more favor of you?
Sure.
Can you leave my audience a great piece of advice that you've learned all these years? You're very young, but I know you've done a lot in your life. What could you leave them?
Well, I would say the biggest breakthrough that I had in my life was, it's very simple. So it might seem a little too simple, but I'm going to say that it's to remember to always optimize for alignment instead of for achievement. I spent a lot of years optimizing for achievement, and I almost killed myself in the process with like overwork and workaholism and getting sick from that. And now I optimize instead. Is this aligned for that star, that six part, that 5-pointed star? Is it aligned with every piece on this? And if it is, yay, great. And if it's not, then I don't do it, or I reorganize it, or I create a new agreement.